we both love food. We both like to cook and eat and cook. if we didn't, we wouldn't be here, you know? So we just cook the food that we would want to eat.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. We've talked a lot about community and culture on Deep in the Weeds, but for the most part, that discussion has been in and around the Australian restaurant sector. How does that sense of community and connection translate in other cities around the world, and namely New York? Camari Mick is the executive pastry chef at the Musket Room in Manhattan's Nolita neighborhood. Camari, how are you?
I'm great. How about yourself?
I'm really good. It's great to get you on the show. What's things like in New York at the moment?
Right now we're having extremely odd, nice weather for November, 70 degrees over here. And we're getting ready for the busy season. You know, holidays is around the corner and everybody just likes to drop money. So we're getting ready for that.
It's been a pretty turbulent couple of years for everyone on the planet, and particularly in hospitality. But what's the feeling like moving into this sort of holiday period and restaurants being busy again? What's it feel like?
It feels great because I feel like we're finally back. I don't want to say we're back to normal because there will never be back to normal, but we're back to a cadence in where everybody's getting a little bit more comfortable, you know. We can actually make more connections with the guest. We can, people are booking more parties, and everybody just wants to get back out there and get back to, you know, what they used to do. So it's great. It's good for business.
I love that you mentioned community there because you're very community-minded and regularly organise sort of groups of young chefs for collaborative sort of projects. Tell us a little bit about that. I
do. So I kind of started to get my rise and come into my own through a project which started during the pandemic. I was at a Black food pop-up. It was for Black entrepreneurs. Greg Braxton of Olmsted and Mason Yaki held a pop-up for chefs and entrepreneurs for about 2 weeks. We each got a couple of days, and that's kind of how I got my start. And then post that, to keep the momentum going, I started selling donuts through my Instagram. And yeah, I mean, because I would get on my bike and just bike all over Brooklyn. And I got a DM one day from Nicole Vitagliano. She's like, hey, you know, I saw your post. Do you have any donuts left? I was like, matter of fact, I do. I have 6. You know, they're yours if you want them. Come to find out, she's the sister of the owner of the Musket Room, Jennifer Vitagliano. And then I got an email a couple of days later saying like, hey, do you want to come in for an interview?
Wow.
Yeah. So I come in and they're like, pretty much loved your stuff. Do you want a job? I'm like, great. Yes, I do, because I'm going stock crazy, not doing anything out of my, you know, studio apartment in Brooklyn, you know? So I was like, absolutely. Of course I've heard of the Musket Room, but, you know, I like never thought I would actually, you know, get a job on spot.
Tell us a little bit about what you did this year with Black History Month.
So in the beginning of the year, I started doing a couple of pop-ups with some friends, chefs that I admire. So during Black History Month, I created this box in which I invited a bunch of chefs around the city. Brittany Williams, she runs, her Instagram account is Sticks, and she runs a catering business out of Brooklyn, which is like Jamaican-based food. And I'm Jamaican, so we had a connection. We followed each other on Instagram. How great friendship starts, you know? I also had Jamal Daly. He did his gluten-free, nut-free macarons, which he also sells through Instagram. Rachel Bossett, she is a chocolatier and also the pastry chef at Dirt Candy, which they just got their Michelin star this year. And a couple of others. And it was so dope because it was just a a great way for like, to continue to uplift each other and put each other on the spot. And it was amazing. I loved having them here. Oh, also Aretta she's now the CDC at Gramercy Tavern, which honestly is a big accomplishment for her, because as the first Black female CDC at Gramercy Tavern. So it's huge honor to have been working alongside her.
What sort of impact are these events having on people, but also what sort of impact is it having on you creating them?
It's amazing, because let's start from the point of I have never truly had a mentor who looked like me. There's no Black woman pastry chef that I have worked with. So it's an honor to not only meet and work alongside, but we are becoming the standard, we are becoming that persons, man, woman chefs that the new generation can now look up to, which is very important to me, especially when we're talking about the new generation of Black and brown chefs. It's very important to have somebody who looks like you and have representation and a seat at the table for us to be able to continue on such a glamorous road that we're now on.
You mentioned your Jamaican heritage. Take us back to when you were young. What sort of role did food play in your family?
Oh my gosh, my parents, I love to gush about my parents, first off. They are like, my sister says she's my number one cheerleader, but I mean, honestly, they're the best. My dad is Jamaican, from Portland. My mom was born and raised in Brooklyn, and they're both amazing cooks. My dad, he's a truck driver, so he would come home on the weekends and take over, the weekend cooking, where my mom would do like the weekday cooking. So barbecues growing up, we would get whole roasted pigs, grill, like my dad makes his own grill out of an oil drum, which is traditionally what we do. We have our own smokers. It was like the whole 9 yards, and we would just throw block parties for like throughout the summer. It's just like the best memories. And my dad's food is still like reigned key in my house. Like, it's so amazing.
When did baking become a fascination for you? Was it something that you thought about from an early age?
Yes. So I was a chubby kid. And growing up, like, I could talk about my family's cooking all day, all night, but they can't bake for shit. Oh, can I curse? Am I allowed to curse?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. They're not great bakers. So the journey started when my mom and I was like, I always wanted something sweet after dinner. I'm like, can we bake something together? So my mom and I started baking together when I was like 8, and then it just snowballed. And by the time I was in high school, I was selling things to my teachers on the low. I was like, I got that chocolate chip muffin. I got that cobbler you wanted. It was great. And then it spiraled to, that point when you're like 16, 17. My parents sat me down and were like, hey, what do you want to do with your life? And I was like, I want to be a forensic pathologist. Yeah. Yeah. And my dad like looked at me like deadpan and was like, are you serious? You love to bake and you're getting really good at it. Like, why don't you get a college education out of this? Like, why don't you go be a baker? Because if you don't, like the cliche, if you love what you do, it won't feel like work every day, And it's true. I love what I do, and I love like what I've made out of it. And it's just been the best journey. I don't even have anything else to compare it to because I've been doing it since I was 18.
Well, take us back to when you were a kid. Was there anything that really stands out from, the first time you tried baking it with your mother?
Oh, it was an absolute failure. the first time. Like I think we made like a couple of cakes together, and I still have this picture, and it's on my Instagram. It's like I have wild hair, I look disheveled, and I'm holding these like two mini cakes, and I just look like I went through it. Honestly, I look like I just did 300 covers on a Saturday night. Like I look so worn out at 8 years old. But looking back, it's just like I know I was very proud of myself and what I've done, and I still feel that way every day.
Take us to those early years. Was life in a commercial kitchen and going to pastry college, was that a bit different to what you had been used to baking at home?
Oh, of course. All of a sudden, it went from my mom yelling at me to a Frenchman yelling at me. And I'm just like, oh my God, the child trauma is coming through. No, I'm kidding. She's going to hate when she hears that. But, no, it was definitely different. I went to college right from high school, to the restaurant school at Walnut Hill College. So now all of a sudden I have 6 a.m. classes, it's called a production class. So it's 6 to 11. And then I would have like a lecture and then possibly like a night class. And that's almost every day. And then on top of that, we had to have an internship. And my crazy ass was like, I want a job too. And so all of a sudden I'm now volunteering, doing like 60, 70 hours a week as an 18-year-old. And then it became my junior, senior year, because it was only like a 3-year program. So junior, senior year, I'm now like, I want to add something else on my plate, and became like a student leader, which is essentially, I guess you compare it to like an RA, but for the whole school, where I had a certain amount of hours I had to work. And I worked in the pastry shop, as a cashier, barista, and yeah, it was a free labor title, essentially, almost like work study, if you will.
What were some of the really important venues and people that you worked with as you built your career in pastry?
So one of my very first jobs in the industry was Morimoto. Actually, rewinding that, when I was in high school, I worked at Wegmans, and Wegmans is a supermarket, one of my favorite supermarkets. Honestly, I shop there all the time. Chef's kiss. Quality food. But my first professional industry restaurant job was Morimoto. And then I worked there for 2 years. And after that, even before graduation, I had a job offer in Nantucket to go work there as like their pastry sous chef, essentially, at a restaurant called Vintuno. And so that's a seasonal job. So they were like, when can you start? And I was like, I'm about to graduate. And they're like, can you come this week? And I was like, sure. And I'd even walk at my graduation. My parents weren't exactly happy, but I still have the diploma, so it's okay. And so I worked 2 seasons at Vintuno in Nantucket, came back the second season. My sister was pregnant, so I was like, I'm not going to do a third. I'm just going to get a job in New York, because she lives in Jersey. And so I got a job at Daniel Boulud's Bistro in Midtown as their pastry sous chef. Was there for a little bit, and then I had left. I took a little bit of a break, and then I went to Le Bernardin. Sorry, I'm trying to remember my resume. I took a position at Le Bernardin working under Chef Thomas Raquel. Then went to go work at Tack Room, which is a Thomas Keller restaurant, which is now closed in New York City. And then the pandemic switched everybody's life upside down, and now I'm here at the Musket Room.
Well, take us back to the kitchens of like Le Bernardin and Thomas Keller's Tack Room. Do you have any stories of what it was like learning pastry in those kitchens? It
was intense, for sure. But yet there is still like a lightheartedness to it. Recalling one story, so the way the pastry station was set up is kind of like its own corner, essentially, like most pastry stations. And I was quenelling some ice cream onto a plate, and I was just being a little, goofy and making this French accent. I was like, "Oh, don't you just live the, whatever?" And and I was like, and the pair walks up behind me. He's like, "Oh, you think it's funny to make fun of the French?" I was like, "Oh, no, chef." So, like, while it was intense and we all very much cared about the food, like, we were still able to, have a good laugh. At least I hope he was laughing after that.
Well, what is it about pastry that excites you so much?
The experimentation. There's so much you can do with pastry, and especially, I'm not a vegan, but I'm so fascinated by vegan food, and especially like the experimentation when it comes to veganism, at least, because here at Musket Room we do have a vegan tasting, and I try especially to make the vegan dessert look just as good, just as pretty, just as tasty as our omnivore tasting. And it's not hard, but it's not easy at the same time. Sourcing things and trying to rewrite recipes that have classically been, with a ton of butter or with egg whites or what have you, because, the French love butter, obviously. So trying to find those other ways to, take a traditional or classic dessert and make it vegan has always been very fun to me. We're in a hospitality industry, so trying to, what's the word I'm looking for? Hone in on everybody's aversions it's kind of nice.
Tell us a little bit about the Musket Room and the restaurant and the offering.
So the Musket Room is a new American restaurant led by the executive chef, Mary Attia. Is ran by Jennifer Vitagliano. She is the owner. Also, our GM is Adam Jaffe, and myself as the pastry chef. We have 2 tasting menus. One is omnivore, one is vegan. Both offer 6 courses. And we also have a wine pairing done by our Sam Ramon.
In the thick of the pandemic, you spearheaded the launch of MR All Day. Tell us a bit about what that is.
I did. So MR All Day was a 1972 Voyager truck, and had me come on in the height of the pandemic. They bought my donuts, and that's exactly what they were looking to sell during that time. So it wasn't only just donuts. We had this breakfast sandwich that was so good. It was a maple miso pork sausage, with fried egg, Gruyere cheese, and a biscuit that I made, a buttermilk biscuit. It was amazing and to die for. It wasn't one of those sandwiches that you're like gonna cover in ketchup. Like, it was just, you eat as is. So good. Along with that, coffee, tea, hot toddies. Actually, what we used to call them, Todd is a hottie. And I would change I used to make these baked bao buns, and I would change them weekly or bi-weekly or what have you. But my favorite was definitely the ube one. It was like a ube pie, like a sweet potato pie inside a bao bun. It was just delicious and warm and purple. It was amazing.
What's a typical day for you at the moment?
A typical day is actually testing for the new restaurant that we are opening. So right now I come in and proof and bake croissants and eat croissants. So gaining weight is a typical day. No, but I come in, do production, and just keep everybody up and running over here. Like I said, we are in the process of opening something up, so it's been a lot of R&D of late.
Tell us a little bit about your food. Is there a dish or two that sort of exemplifies your approach to pastry? I love to say that I am whimsical and I like to play around
with my food. Right now, one of my favorite dishes is the vegan pavlova, which I have on the vegan menu. It is a Szechuan peppercorn whipped ganache with a aquafaba meringue, papaya sorbet, and fresh papaya ribbons that have been tossed in some lemon juice and simple syrup. And yeah, that's it. Oh, there's like papaya puree on there that we make as well, and it's 100% vegan.
Wow. You've already received some acknowledgements, James Beard Award nomination this year, and some glowing reviews as well in the New York Times. Well, what's it like being caught up in a restaurant that's new American and carving a new path?
It's amazing, honestly. Like I said, I'm glad I can be almost like a trailblazer for Black women in the kitchen. Seeing and doing and just being in this space has been absolutely amazing, and I'm glad to be able to like help pave the way.
Manhattan is such a bustling place with so many varied dining options. What does it take to stand out from the crowd there?
Honestly, I think, and I can't speak for Mary, but just doing the food that we want to eat on the regular basis, it's what helps us stand out. Like, we're not trying to impress. I mean, we are trying to impress our guests, of course, but at the end of the day, like, I would want our restaurant to be where hospitality diners would want to come, like the hospitality workers would want to come. We both love food. We both like to, cook and eat and cook. If we didn't, we wouldn't be here, So we just cook the food that we would want to eat.
New York is a food destination for lots of people around the globe. Have you got any favorite New York food moments that you've experienced that you can share?
Oh my gosh, yes. So 63 Clinton, I just had the best tasting menu there. That was really good. I tell all the cooks, like, if they're looking for places to go out and eat, that's definitely a place that they should stop. Their tasting menu is under $100. It's 6 courses, and it's just so well thought out and delicious and affordable, really.
You mentioned that you've never had a mentor like yourself through your career, but now you're in a position to make a statement and help others. So tell us a little bit about your approach to getting the best out of your team and mentoring the team that you have.
So my approach is, one, we all make mistakes. 2, we're all human, and nobody deserves to be yelled at, period. Like, we don't do that toxic energy in our kitchen. Everybody gets treated with respect in the same level that, you treat everybody the way you want to be treated, essentially. That's what I was grown up and taught. So that's how, like, Chef and I run the kitchen. So if you were to make a mistake, we just go over it together. Maybe we make it again. And that's that. Like, we don't expect perfection on the first go.
You mentioned the food-loving family that you have, and they kind of push you in the direction of becoming a pastry chef. What do they think about the career that you've created for yourself?
Oh my gosh, they love it. They absolutely love it. They love the perks of it too. Funnily enough, there was a James Beard event that I was invited to, and I got 2+1 tickets, and I invited my parents, and everybody at the end of that event knew who Conrad and Terry Mick were. And my sister is just there. My sister somehow got a ticket too, and she was just there watching my parents just like talk up and eat and drink. It was so much fun. They love it. They love seeing us, especially like my father and us being first generation. They love us to see us thrive and have the things that they didn't have, or do the things that they couldn't do or haven't done. So that they love that journey for us.
Who else is exciting you in the pastry scene in New York at the moment?
Definitely Kelly Nam at Jumak. I hope I'm saying that right. She was just nominated as the best pastry chef in New York City. I wish I had some like air horns by Michelin. I went there the other night with Rachel, and she just did a fantastic job, and I just cannot be more excited to call her a peer. She's doing great. Also, Orlando Soto at Le Bernardin too. His stuff is so. We worked together briefly, and I have just always been so amazed by his work, and I've always looked up to him. Like, it's just so, he's such a talent.
Well, you're making an incredible impact yourself with your talents. What's next for you?
Opening this restaurant and surviving that, because we all know opening a restaurant can be, a little stressful. So there's that, and then hopefully we do some pop-ups outside of New York. I would love to go to Jamaica and do a pop-up, maybe Australia, who knows? And yeah, so just traveling after that, taking a little bit of a breather and then getting back to the grind.
Well, you're making an amazing impact. What do you love about what you do?
Now that I'm a manager, I love the freedom and the creativity that I can impart onto the menu, especially bringing my own heritage. As you heard, I'm using papaya, which traditionally I've never seen papaya on any dessert menu, let alone a menu with a Michelin star. So being able to bring my own flavors and my own twist on things into this space has been very important to me. And I do get reached out to about that a lot. Like, they're just, some people are just so impressed and so, feeling welcomed almost, that they see their heritage on the menu too, and I feel like that just makes it more attractive, other than eating the same old, like, oh, just because pumpkins are in season right now doesn't mean we have to use them. Like, there's other stuff that's in season that we can source, maybe not from a traditional vendor, but maybe I have to make a trip down to Chinatown, or I have to make a trip to Calustians, which is an amazing spice store up in what district is that? Midtown. But yeah, it's just being able to express myself and bring a little bit of me to the menu that I love.
Well, Camari, it's an absolute honour to have you on Deep in the Weeds today to hear part of your story. Good luck with the new venture, and congratulations on what you're building with your career, and keep in touch, and we'll catch up again soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And Will was right. Your voice is very soothing.
Thanks, Camari.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.